Here's what's so scary to me. The president is talking about, I could do it in a couple days or 4 weeks, 5 weeks. I can do this. Trust me. And his officials from his administration are saying, like, it's not going to be Iraq. Just stop. Like, it won't be Iraq. It's going to be quick. But many people online pointing, this is just one of many. We could have pulled a lot of these. Dick Cheney, back in March 2003, about the Iraq war. This is 3 days before we launched it, SOT 5.
If we do have to take action, do you think it will be a long war or a short war?
My own judgment, based on my time as Secretary of Defense and having operated in this area in the past, I'm confident that our troops will be successful, and I think it'll go relatively quickly. But you can't
months,
count on that. Weeks rather than months. There's always the possibility of complications that you can't anticipate, but I have great confidence in our troops.
8 years and 8 months later, we finally pulled our troops out. It was not weeks. It was not months. It was nearly a decade, not to mention what happened in Afghanistan.
And tens of thousands of wounded. Look, a sliding door moment in that conflict. The head of Iraqi intelligence came to see me early in 2004, like February. So the U.S. had been there for about 9 months. And, you get the initial pause and calm after the invasion, and then the chaos starts. And he said, we're seeing all kinds of evidence of the Iranians sending agents into Iraq, building cells to kill opposition, to exert force. And we want a capability to drive them out. So he said, yes, this is back in my Blackwater days. The CIA was going to pay for it. It was a tiny cost compared to what was being spent per day, and blocked by Condoleezza Rice, the National Security Advisor.
Wow.
No, Iran is not our enemy. We have to respect the political process, all the rest. If we had severed and prevented the Iranians from getting their hooks into Iraqi society, we wouldn't have had all the problems in Iraq. But now to think we're going to wade into Iran, into the IRGC's hometowns, and say we're going to impose regime change and consider U.S. troops, please, that is a bad idea. If people are so hell-bent to do it, fine, let them go volunteer. They can train the Iranian people, carve out some part of Iran that they conquer and free, and build from there. But it does not have to be done by our active duty forces, period.
Here's what the report is on the munitions problem today. It's written by Kelly Bucar-Vlahos of responsiblestatecraft.org. She spent some time working for Fox News. She's got the right background for this reporting. She's taking on the president's Truth Social overnight on Monday, which reads in part as follows. The United States munitions stockpiles have, this is Trump, at the medium and upper medium grade, never been higher or better. So medium and upper medium, never been higher or better. As was stated to me today, we have a virtually unlimited supply of these weapons. Wars can be fought forever, he writes, and very successfully using just these supplies, which are better than other countries' finest arms. At the highest end, we have a good supply, but we're not where we want to be. Much additional high-grade weaponry is stored for us in outlying countries. Sleepy Joe Biden spent all of his time and our country's money giving everything to P.T. Barnum Zelensky of Ukraine, hundreds of billions of dollars worth. And while he gave so much of the super high-end away free, he didn't bother to replace it. And says, fortunately, he's rebuilt it. But this is Trump saying we're good on medium and upper medium grade, and that we can basically raid our outposts if we need more on the high-grade weaponry, which we are low on, he admits, thanks to Ukraine. Now, here's what she reports. Okay, she says, by all measures, by every measure, this is not true. It would never be true. But in the case of today, after 4 years of emptying our stores for Ukraine and then more than 2 years for Israel, fighting the Houthis, defending Israel twice in Operation Midnight Hammer in June, and now Operation Epic Fury. Well, you remember the nursery rhyme. She writes, Old Mother Hubbard, the cupboard is bare. Perhaps what is most absurd, she writes about Trump's words, Other than the lack of truth, he did not rebuild the stockpiles in 1 year following Biden. The missiles are still being sent to Ukraine under previous agreements. And then he told the Europeans they could buy them, depleting the stores even further. But she says, but his Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman, Dan Kane, also warned that an operation, especially an extended one, could be risky. Washington Post reporting last week, we brought this to you yesterday as well, Dan Kane expressed his concerns when they were planning this at a White House meeting last week, that any major operation against Iran will face challenges because the U.S. munitions stockpile has been significantly depleted by Washington's ongoing defense of Israel and support for Ukraine. Trump immediately went to Truth Social to contradict the story, but as we reported here, she writes, the military was already raising the alarms last summer about the shocking, that's in quotes, number of missiles that had been depleted from the stockpiles. She writes, the standard missile variant was down 33%. Those cost $12.5 to $28 million apiece. Each interception attempt requires at least 2 missiles, and often more than that. Thwarting a few missiles can easily end up costing more than it does to buy an F-35. According to reports, the U.S. used a quarter of its THAAD missile interceptors during the 12-day war in June, the one in Iran, alone. The Guardian reported in July the U.S. only had 25% of the Patriot missile interceptors it would need for the Pentagon's future military plans, with many already sent to Ukraine and more promised. It goes on. She talks about how we were expending Tomahawk cruise missiles air-to-air to counter the Houthis, which one of the reasons why Trump ended that so abruptly is we were running out of those. The Tomahawks lost at an extraordinary rate in operations around the globe, not just that one, but in the Middle East against Iran, against the Houthis, and against Nigeria on Christmas Day. On and on it goes. The point she's making here, Eric, is we don't have the military defenses and weaponry that we need to defend against an Iran that's not just rolling over.
Correct. And if what's more strategic value to the United States is keeping the CCP from rolling over Taiwan, because they make all the computer chips that we need to run a modern economy. That is far more strategic. We don't need anything in the Middle East for oil because we're independent thanks to Texas fracking. So yes, it's a math problem. And it's a production problem. You over the last 20, 30 years, you've really allowed a cartelization of our defense industry. You have the 5 super majors, which make super exotic, very high-end weaponry that, as you just listed, is ridiculously expensive. And so the cost of delivering energy, right? There's 2 things a military commander does. You coordinate information and release energy. Move that airplane from here to there, move that ship, or put that warhead on a forehead. The cost of doing a warhead on a forehead in the United States is grotesquely too high. And Trump administration, to their credit, is trying to bring reform there and bring more competition to it, but haven't been able to go nearly fast enough because you have a lethargic, worthless Congress, which doesn't really change procurement rules to open up the throttle on production and procurement. But those are, yes, what you just listed are very real math problems. And if we deplete stocks further, now you leave the entire Pacific theater and the West Coast of the United States extremely open to incoming attack from anybody, really.
Mm-hmm. And they don't get made overnight. Think about this. In 2006, $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. Okay, $20,000 got you 33 ounces. At today's prices, those 33 ounces would be worth about $165,000. That would have been a very good investment. And that's why so many smart Americans do diversify a portion of their savings into precious metals. They're thinking about what's going to happen in the next 20 years. And it's also why you should consider buying gold from Birch Gold Group. For thousands of years, gold has been a store of wealth. And today, it is a crucial part of any balanced strategy. Even better, Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered retirement account in gold. All you have to do is text MK to the number 989898, and that will give you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation. It's just useful information from which you can make a decision. With an A+ rating, With a Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, let Birch Gold help you diversify with gold. Now that's peace of mind. Again, text MK to 989898 today. This amidst reports as follows that the U.S. embassies in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait have closed after drone attacks. You mentioned that the Iranians are using not only missiles, but drones very effectively, and they've got some untold number of them, and they're using them against U.S. embassies in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, and now we've closed those after they were attacked by drones. The U.S. are urging Americans in the region, depart now. Again, they're asking themselves, how? How do we get out? It doesn't seem that easy. Then there's a report that the UAE and Qatar are having interceptor issues, that the United Arab Emirates and Qatar via Bloomberg are privately lobbying allies to help them persuade Trump to reach for an off-ramp that would keep U.S. military operations against Iran short. Privately, both the UAE and Qatar are working to quickly improve their air defense capabilities. The UAE has requested assistance from its allies with medium-range air defenses, while Qatar has asked for help to counter drone attacks, which have emerged as a greater-than-ballistic missiles threat. Qatar's stocks of Patriot interceptor missiles will last 4 days at the current rate of use. Not for nothing, but the UAE and Qatar denied these claims when contacted by the by Bloomberg on them. But the Wall Street Journal has similar reporting. They read a crucial variable is whether these monarchies start running out of interceptors before the Iranian regime runs out of projectiles. At current burn rates, it could be very soon. The UAE, they write, by Monday evening had been targeted by 174 Iranian ballistic missiles, 8 cruise missiles, 689 drones in 3 days, with no missiles and 44 drones actually hitting. Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, these are all Gulf allies, came under heavy barrages, with Bahrain reporting 70 incoming ballistic missiles. It usually takes 2 or even 3 interceptors, such as missiles for the Patriot or THAAD systems, to shoot down one ballistic missile. And we talked about how expensive those are. So these are all our Gulf allies who are taking the brunt of it right now. Of course, Israel's getting attacked, but so are all of our Gulf allies, and so are our embassies. And in the meantime, the question is whether we've gone to Iran to say, hey, do you want to talk? Do you want an off ramp? Because we're not projecting that publicly. I did see at least one unconfirmed report that we had tried to do that through the Italians and that we were told no. But right now it's full steam ahead. In fact, all the administration keeps saying is you haven't seen anything yet. We're about to unleash a much bigger, fuller, heretofore unseen barrage.
Yeah, Megyn, I've not had a security clearance in more than 15 years. So maybe I'm just not very well briefed. But at the end of the day, I think it's a math problem when you have an enemy like Iran that can field weapons that are $20,000 to $30,000, like a Shahed drone, and we have to shoot it down with, I thought the standard missiles were 1.2 million. What you just read, they were in the 10 to 12 million per copy. It's insane. Insanity that we've allowed our cost structure to get away from us that badly. And yeah, this is not a great situation, but the president can say, look, we did our part. We smashed the Iranian leadership, and now we're done.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's it. Our part's done. And if Israel wants to stay over there and do something, although I guess that's fraught too, because that's kind of how we got into this mess. Israel, look, there's 2 roles for Israel here. Number one, Bibi has been lobbying President Trump for the better part of a year to do this. He desperately wanted to strike Iran. He's wanted war with Iran for decades. He's pleaded with every U.S. president to allow him to do this and to help them do this. And finally, he found a taker in President Trump. So it's been very clear that he's wanted to do it, and he wants to do it with our help. The specific catalyst was allegedly, according to Rubio and Speaker Johnson, that he came into Trump and said, okay, we're going to do it. And Trump and team said, well, if they're going to do it, we're the ones who are going to be taking the responsive strikes. So let's join in. We'll do it in tandem. So yes, on a sort of short-term basis, it was also potentially his fault, but that undermines the obvious truth that Trump could have told him, no, you're not doing it either. And Trump didn't do that. And I think that reverts back to point A, that he'd been getting convinced by Bibi for a year that this was necessary. And we had this chance, especially Bibi was reportedly arguing, especially after the nuclear facility strike in June, they're weakened. Now's the time, strike while the iron's hot. And he talked Trump into it, Eric. Now the president's defenders are like, oh, no one talks Trump into anything. Like, oh, come on. Trump didn't run on this. Trump wasn't promising war with Iran. Trump wasn't running around saying, I'm going to take out the Ayatollah. That was Bibi all along. Clearly, he was persuaded by Netanyahu this was a good idea.
Persuaded or coerced or extorted? I don't know. I'm not at that decision-making level. I don't claim to be. I just claim to understand math. And right now, we don't have a great math scenario. The U.S. forces, for what they were asked to do, performed amazing. Of course, when the enemy shoots back, sometimes their rounds are going to get through. And the friendly fire incident over Kuwait, losing 3 aircraft, we are exceedingly lucky we didn't lose those crews. Yeah. But it's not time to go deeper into Netanyahu's war. And I think he's been to Washington at least 6 times. You think he could have taken his son back?
And the White House at least 7.
Okay, 7. You think he could have grabbed his son from hanging out on the beach in Miami and taken him back to at least serve in the IDF instead of asking America's sons and daughters to do the same?
Yeah. Why do we have 6 dead American troops now while his son's on a beach in Miami? That's a good question. He went on with Sean Hannity last night, and I'll show you the exchange. SOT 1.
There are people that say, well, the prime minister of Israel dragged Donald Trump into it. And as somebody that's been friends with him over 30 years, nobody drags Donald Trump into anything, number one. But I want to get your reaction to that.
Well, you're right. I mean, that's ridiculous. Donald Trump is the strongest leader in the world. He does what he thinks is right for America. And we have to understand that we're fighting here. We're fighting here the bad guys. We're the good guys.
I mean, the evil laugh is just right on brand there. But I just think, so, okay, they're setting it up such that, look, I'm just going to be honest. Hannity is a supplicant to Donald Trump. He would never say anything other than to puff Donald Trump up. And it's not, we all love Trump, but let's be real. Like, he can be flattered into thinking, yes, this is your idea and it's a great one and you're the leader of the free world and we need you, Mr. President. Bibi's not dumb. He would know how to talk Trump into it, which is clearly what he did. And then you have Rubio on record and you have Speaker Johnson on record saying this is kind of the ultimate catalyst. And now Trump comes out today and says the following. This just hit. Watch.
Mr. President, did Israel force your hand to launch these strikes against Iran? Did Netanyahu pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people that do this very successfully and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand.
Okay, that's just not true. There's zero, he didn't mention that at all in any of his explanations about why we started this war. All the intel that's been leaked in the reports to the Washington Post and the New York Times and every publication has been, the calculation was that we would get hit by Iran preemptively after Israel struck them. Not that they were just going to, out of nowhere, attack the United States if they had not yet been attacked. And that while we were having these negotiations with them where we made demands, they were never going to meet, Eric. I mean, in no world were the Iranians going to promise they would never have a nuclear plan, civil or otherwise, ever. I mean, that's just, as much as we'd love that, there was no way they were going to, we set these terms that they, of course, were not going to meet while we were moving our aircraft carriers into the region, getting ready to execute Bibi's plan. Your thoughts on it?
Look, I love the president. I love largely the decisions he's made, but I love him enough to also tell him when he's going down the wrong path. And in this case, putting ground troops or extending this war longer is the wrong course of action.
Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.